Frank's aura and his reputation, of course, surely helped them come around. And they seemed to, from an outsider's point of view, fairly soon. But he, he's so humble by nature. When he came, and well, you remember this, said, "Well, I've been on the audiology side all my life, but I'm not a businessman. I'm not a fundraiser. If I come, you guys are going to have to give me a lot of help on that side." And we agreed to meet with him regularly, and Thursday mornings, as I recall, Emil in his office for donuts. Back then, didn't know donuts were unhealthy, and for quite a long time. But he picked it right up, and of course, you were involved by then with him, and he soon had the full grasp. Charlotte, I remember well too. In fact, I think we had as much trouble selling Charlotte probably as Frank, don't you, Emil? And part of it was that he was very much involved in Washington University at St. Louis, where he was, of course, the Central Institute for the Deaf. And Washington's a fine university, and as an adjunct professor, his kids had scholarships to the two children, and that meant a lot.
They were seeing the result of what he had asked very shortly, and the staff was beginning to really realize that this is what they wanted to do, and they became vested in all that was happening. And I think that's when innovation and all of the thing came from them and from other parts of it. And actually, Wichita is really good for supporting things, and because a lot of the people that are here, it's just a Midwest attitude of entrepreneurship and supporting what your community is. And I think he got in with that, and that's it. He had innovation everywhere.
Frank was not only an innovator, but he wasn't afraid of anything. So he'd be willing to present something regardless of what the slings and arrows of the outraged misfortune would say. He would just come with whatever it was. And even if he didn't know, he'd get advice from people like Fred Berry and Emil and Frank, and then he would proceed.
The facility, the old one, of course, down on 21st Street, such a change today with the new Opportunity Place and the school and the wonderful Boys and Girls Club all on that old site. But it really was run down because Dr. Palmer had been gone for 10 years and we'd been in financial strains. And it was obvious. In fact, I'm a little surprised we were able to convince Frank and Charlotte that it was salvageable. But as soon as Frank got his feet on the ground, decided we had to have a fundraising campaign to do some major improvements there. But Charlotte, she had this great sense of style and color and freshness and what would make the kids feel good, and equally important, what would make the parents feel good. And of course, bringing them in on 21st Street from out of town to say this is where you're going to leave your handicapped child was always a challenge. And then guys like Frank and Nestor, and you, I guess Nestor got Charles Koch involved. We did a 1980s campaign for $3 million and ended up raising 3.8.
I think he realized that he probably would get the support he needed. But more than that, I think he knew that he could have a significant contribution. He did know that he was needed, and he was not one that would back away from a challenge. And I think he knew that he had a contribution, and he did it. He took it and actually did what he wanted to.
Frank was such a delight to work with as a board member. Humility on the one hand, but total competence, as others have mentioned, on the other, and this long background of prestigious activity in his field. He didn't try to show that off at all or anything. And worked well with his board, I'm sure you would all agree, and as a board chairman part of the time and on the board others. And I should add, totally open, transparent, honest. We never were any hidden agendas with Frank. We never had to worry about what does he really mean, or is there something going on that doesn't show up on the budget, that sort of thing. I don't think we ever had any of that, which does happen sometimes, unfortunately.
All the time.
It's the most gratifying volunteer service in my life. I've said that before, I think, and I'll say it again in front of Frank.
Frank, you left an indelible mark on the Institute of Logopedics, and without you, it probably wouldn't have become Heartspring.
I'm so grateful that he came, and that what he's done for this community has just been unbelievable. The services that we have given to all those children and adults, whatever, have just been unbelievable, and they've affected all of us a huge amount, and that's why he needs to be honored.